Liam Reed had learned three important things during his first year at Galactica Academy. First, alien food tasted like recycled plastic no matter what color it was. Second, gravity felt different on every deck of the station and his human stomach still hadn't adjusted. Third, every species in the galaxy thought they knew exactly what humans were capable of, and they were usually wrong. The announcement came during breakfast in the communal dining hall. Headmaster Oren Fastlight shimmered at the front of the room, his crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns across the walls. His voice resonated through the air without needing speakers. Students of Galactica Academy, the time has come for your bonding ceremony. Around the hall, students from 100 different worlds perked up. Some had tentacles, some had wings, some were barely solid. Liam sat with the only two other humans at the academy. Nora West picked at her protein cube while Felix Gray scrolled through his datapad, already researching options. Each of you will select a companion creature to care for during your final year. Oren continued. This tradition teaches responsibility, empathy, and the delicate balance of partnership across species boundaries. Choose wisely. Your companion will reflect your character and your commitment to our shared values. The holographic display activated above the dining hall, showing hundreds of approved creatures. Liam watched as colorful animals rotated in three-dimensional glory, lumen wings that glowed soft blue, crystal crawlers that sang in harmonic frequencies, nebula sprites that left trails of stardust. All of them beautiful, all of them safe, all of them boring. Humans. Oren's attention turned to their table and Liam felt every eye in the room follow. Given your species' limited experience with interstellar fauna, I strongly recommend you choose from Category 1 companions. Simple care requirements. Minimal risk, Nora nodded obediently. Felix was already highlighting a prism hawk in his notes, but Liam felt that familiar itch in his brain, the one that got him in trouble back on Earth and had followed him 40 light years to this floating school. You have 1 week to submit your choices, Oren said. Selections are final. Later that evening, Liam couldn't sleep. The gravity on this deck was set to Vrillian standard, which meant everything felt 20% heavier than it should. He gave up on rest and wandered to the Academy Library, a massive sphere of floating data screens and knowledge archives that predated most civilizations. He pulled up the companion database and scrolled past the approved options. His fingers moved almost on their own, diving into subdirectories and archived files. The Academy had been operating for 3,000 years. Surely they had records of more than just the safe choices. That was when he found it. A restricted file marked with enough warning symbols to make any sensible person back away. Liam opened it. The hologram that appeared made his breath catch. A creature of pure majesty filled the display, rotating slowly. Scales like polished obsidian caught the light. Wings that could blot out stars. Eyes that burned with molten gold intelligence. The data scrolled beside the image. Species, stellar drake. Origin, Ashfire system. Classification, apex predator, class X. Status, quarantined. Danger level, extreme. Liam read further. Stellar drakes were ancient, possibly older than most spacefaring races. They were intelligent, maybe more than most species wanted to admit. They had been involved in some kind of war millennia ago, and afterward their entire system had been sealed off. No contact, no trade, no bonds, but there was one drake at the Academy. A juvenile, confiscated from black market traders 2 years ago, named Cinder, currently held in deep containment level 12. The file noted that 3 species had attempted to bond with Cinder. All 3 attempts had ended with injuries severe enough to warrant emergency medical intervention. Liam should have closed the file. Should have picked a nice, safe lumen wing like everyone expected, but he kept staring at those golden eyes in the hologram, and something in them looked desperately, achingly alone. He thought about Earth, about how his ancestors had looked at wolves, animals that could tear them apart, and decided to make friends instead. About how every other species thought that was insane right up until they saw a dog. About how humanity's greatest strength had always been seeing potential where others saw only danger. His fingers moved across the datapad. The submission form appeared, asking for his selection. The cursor blinked in the empty field. Liam took a breath and typed, Cinder. Stellar Drake. Deep containment level 12. He hit submit before he could change his mind. The system paused. Error messages flashed. Then, to his surprise, the submission went through. A confirmation appeared on his screen along with a new message. Emergency council session scheduled, your presence required. 0800 hours. Liam sat back and looked at the hologram of Cinder still rotating in front of him. Those golden eyes seemed to stare right through the display, right through the walls, right into him. Well, he said to the empty library, this is either the smartest or stupidest thing I've ever done. The dragon's image flickered in the light. Magnificent and impossible. Liam returned to his quarters, but sleep was even more elusive now. In less than 10 hours, he would have to stand before the Academy Council and defend a choice that broke every rule they had written. Every sensible argument told him to withdraw his selection, to choose something appropriate for a human student who should know his place. But whenever he closed his eyes, he saw those golden eyes. He heard a voice in his head, not words exactly, but a feeling, a question that echoed across the space between them. Are you brave enough? Morning would come soon. The council would assemble, and Liam Reed, 17 years old and 40 light years from home, would have to convince the most powerful beings in the galaxy that a human and a dragon could prove everyone wrong. The council chamber made Liam feel like an insect under a microscope. 12 beings sat in a semicircle above him, each representing a different corner of known space. Their seats floated at different heights and angles, accommodated for species that experienced reality in fundamentally different ways. Some breathed oxygen. Others existed partially in dimensions Liam couldn't perceive. All of them looked displeased. Headmaster Oren Fastlight spoke first, his crystalline form pulsing with what Liam had learned to recognize as agitation. Liam Reed. In 3,000 years of Academy history, no student has ever requested a Class X predator as a companion. Would you care to explain this? Selection? Liam stood in the center of the chamber alone. Nora and Felix had offered to come, but this wasn't their fight. He cleared his throat, trying to project confidence he didn't entirely feel. I believe Cinder and I could form a successful bond, he said simply. A sound like grinding stones filled the chamber. That was laughter from council member Granite Who Remembers, a being composed of living rock. Belief is insufficient, human child. 3 trained xenobiologists attempted to bond with the Drake. All 3 nearly died. What makes you different? I'm human, Liam said. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Dr. Maura Stillwater, the student welfare officer who resembled a flowing column of liquid mercury, rippled with concern. That is precisely why we oppose this request. Humans are newcomers to galactic society. You lack the biological adaptations, the cultural experience, the generational knowledge required to approach such a dangerous species. Liam had prepared for this. He pulled up his datapad and projected images into the center of the chamber. A wolf appeared, fierce and wild. Then gradually the images shifted. A dog sleeping beside a human child. A hawk perched calmly on a gloved hand. A cat purring in someone's lap. These were all apex predators on my world, Liam explained. The wolf could hunt in packs and take down prey 5 times its size. The hawk could strike from the sky with enough force to shatter bone. These animals could have killed us easily, but humans didn't see them as enemies or tools. We saw them as potential partners. Domestication is not bonding, Oren said sharply. It is subjugation through selective breeding over thousands of generations. No, Liam said, and his voice carried more force than he intended. It started with one human and one wolf who chose to trust each other. One person who looked at something dangerous and saw past the teeth to the intelligence behind them. That's what humans do. We make friends in unlikely places. Council member Whisper of Stars, a gaseous being contained in a floating sphere, spoke in tones that bypassed Liam's ears and resonated directly in his mind. The stellar drakes are not simple beasts. They possess intelligence that rivals our own. They once bonded with an ancient race called the Firstborn, and that partnership ended in war so devastating that the Ashfire system remains quarantined to this day. What makes you think you can succeed where an entire civilization failed? Liam took a breath. This was the dangerous part. Maybe that's exactly why I should try. Everyone else sees Cinder as a weapon or a trophy or a mistake. I just see someone who's alone and probably scared, stuck in a cage on a station full of species who think he's a monster. I know what that feels like. The council exchanged glances or whatever passed for glances among beings of pure energy and living stone. Dr. Mora spoke again, her voice gentler. Liam, we appreciate your compassion. But compassion without wisdom leads to tragedy. We cannot allow you to endanger yourself. Then give me a chance to prove it's possible, Liam said. He had rehearsed this part all night. The Academy Charter, Article 47, states that no species shall be denied opportunity based on prejudicial assumption. You're assuming I'll fail because I'm human. You're assuming Cinder is unbondable because previous attempts failed. Let me try. Oren's light flickered. You would invoke the Charter? If I have to, Liam said. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for the same chance you'd give any student who submitted an unusual request. Test me, set conditions, monitor everything. But give me a real chance. The council members conferred among themselves in languages Liam couldn't understand. Colors shifted. Sounds harmonized and clashed. Finally, Oren turned back to him. We will allow a trial period, 30 days. Cinder will remain in partial restraints. You will be monitored constantly. Any sign of aggression from the Drake, any indication that the bond is failing and the trial ends immediately. If you succeed, you may continue. If you fail, I'll accept expulsion, Liam said quickly. No appeals. No second chances, Dr. Mora rippled with concern. Liam, expulsion means returning to Earth. Your family sacrificed greatly to send you here. Liam thought of his parents, who had worked 3 jobs each to afford the transport fees, who had cried when he left proud and terrified, who believed their son could represent humanity among the stars. I know what's at stake, he said quietly. I still want to try. Another long pause. Then Oren spoke. Very well. The trial begins tomorrow. Report to deep containment at dawn cycle. We will arrange for proper safety protocols. His light pulsed with what might have been respect or might have been pity. I hope you understand what you are attempting, young human. Stellar drakes are not animals. They are proud, ancient, and utterly unforgiving of weakness or deception. Then I'll make sure to be strong and honest, Liam said. As the council dismissed him, Granite, who remembers, rumbled a final warning. We have activated the betting pools, human child. Current odds are 40-1 that you fail within 3 days, 70-1 that you fail within 1. No one believes you will last the full 30. Liam smiled, despite himself. Good. I like proving people wrong. He left the chamber and immediately collapsed against the corridor wall, his legs shaking with delayed fear. What had he done? He had just bet his entire future on bonding with a creature that had sent trained experts to the medical bay. A dragon. An actual dragon that could probably incinerate him with a sneeze. Felix and Nora were waiting in the corridor. Felix looked impressed. Nora looked horrified. You really did it, Felix said. You actually convinced them. Liam, this is insane, Nora said. Do you have any idea what you're risking? Yeah, Liam said. Everything. He pushed off the wall and started walking toward the lift. Which is why I need to prepare. Where's the library's xenobiology section? You're going to study? Nora asked, following him. I'm going to learn everything I can about stellar drakes in the next 18 hours. Their biology, their culture, their history. If I'm walking into that containment vault tomorrow, I want to know exactly who I'm meeting. Felix grinned and pulled up his own datapad. I'll help. Someone has to make sure you don't get eaten on day 1. The betting pools would never forgive me. They spent the rest of the day buried in research, pulling every file they could access about the Ashfire system and its mysterious inhabitants. Most of it was heavily redacted, classified after the ancient war. But fragments remained. Stellar drakes communicated through thermal patterns and subsonic frequencies. They valued courage above all else. They remembered every kindness and every betrayal, and they chose their bonds carefully because once chosen, they were loyal unto death. Night cycle came too quickly. Liam lay in his quarters staring at the curved ceiling of the station. Somewhere below him, 12 levels deep in the heart of Galactica Academy, Cinder waited in darkness. Tomorrow, everything would change. Deep containment level 12 smelled like ozone and fear. Liam followed the security escort through corridors that grew progressively darker and more oppressive. The walls here were reinforced with materials designed to withstand stellar-class impacts. They needed to be. The head of security, a 4-armed insectoid named Pitch, clicked her mandibles nervously. Last chance to reconsider, human. The previous attempt was a Vrillian combat specialist. Cinder broke 3 of his arms before we could activate the neural dampeners. I'll keep my arms to myself, Liam said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. They reached a massive vault door covered in warning symbols from a dozen different languages. All of them translated roughly to certain death beyond this point. Pitch entered a code that took all four of her hands to input simultaneously. "You have 1 hour," she said. "Emergency extraction teams are standing by. If the Drake shows any aggression, we pull you out immediately. Understood?" Liam nodded. His mouth had gone dry. The vault door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Heat rolled out in waves. The chamber beyond was enormous, carved from solid rock and lit by dim red lights that gave everything a hellish glow. And there, in the center of the space, chained to the floor with bonds that glowed with containment energy, was Cinder. The Drake was bigger than Liam had imagined. Even lying down, Cinder stood taller than a human. His scales were black as the space between stars, but they reflected the red light like dark mirrors. His wings were folded against his sides, each one large enough to wrap around a small spacecraft. And his eyes, those molten gold eyes that had haunted Liam's thoughts, watched the doorway with an intelligence that was absolutely, terrifyingly aware. Liam stepped inside. The door sealed behind him with a finality that made his heart race. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Liam could feel the heat radiating from Cinder's body, could hear the slow measured breathing that sounded like distant thunder. The Drake's tail, barbed and powerful, twitched once. "Hello," Liam said quietly. His voice sounded small in the vast chamber. "My name is Liam." Cinder's eyes narrowed. A low rumble built in the Drake's chest, a sound that Liam felt in his bones before he heard it. Not quite a growl. More like a question rendered in frequencies too deep for normal hearing. Liam had read about this. Stellar drakes communicated through a combination of thermal patterns and subsonic vibrations. They could speak if they wanted to, but their native language was something more primal, something felt rather than heard. He couldn't respond in kind, but he could be honest. "I can't understand you yet," Liam admitted. "I'm just a human. We don't have the biology for thermal speech, but I'm trying to learn." He took a slow step forward, hands visible and empty. "I know you're probably angry. I would be too. They took you from your home, locked you in here, treated you like a criminal or a trophy." The rumbling stopped. Cinder's head tilted slightly, watching. "I asked to meet you," Liam continued. "The council thinks I'm crazy. Most of the students have bet against me. Everyone expects you to kill me or hurt me badly enough that they can prove humans shouldn't be here." He took another step. The heat was intense now, like standing too close to a fire. "But I don't think you're a monster. I think you're someone who's been hurt and trapped and treated like something you're not." Cinder's tail moved again, a slow sweep across the stone floor. Not aggressive, thoughtful. Liam sat down right there on the floor, 20 feet from a creature that could end him in a heartbeat. "I'm not going to try to command you or dominate you. I'm not going to pretend I'm strong enough to control you. I can't offer you much, but I can offer you this." He met those golden eyes directly. "I'll treat you like a person. Not a pet. Not a weapon. A person who deserves respect and choice." The silence stretched. Liam counted his heartbeats. 10, 20, 30. Then Cinder moved. The Drake rose to his full height, chains rattling. Heat poured off him in waves that made the air shimmer. He took one step forward, then another. His head lowered until those massive jaws were close enough that Liam could see teeth like polished daggers, could smell the sulfur-tinged breath. Every instinct screamed at Liam to run. But he stayed still, kept his eyes on Cinder's, and waited. The Drake's rumble returned, but different this time. Softer. Almost curious. A question formed not in words, but in the vibration of air and the shift of thermal patterns. Why? Liam understood it somehow, felt the meaning in his chest. "Because I've been alone too," he said quietly. "Because I know what it's like to be the only one of your kind in a place that doesn't understand you. Because maybe we both need a friend." Cinder pulled back slightly. His eyes searched Liam's face, looking for deception, for weakness, for the ulterior motives that every other species had shown. And perhaps he found something different, because the Drake settled back onto the floor with a sound like distant thunder. Not acceptance. Not yet. But not rejection either. Liam stayed for the full hour, talking quietly about Earth and home and what it felt like to be human among the stars. He talked about his parents, about forests and oceans, about the wolf who became a dog and the wild creatures who chose to walk alongside humans. Cinder listened, occasionally rumbling responses that Liam couldn't fully understand but tried to acknowledge anyway. When Pitch opened the vault to signal time was up, Liam stood slowly. "I'll come back tomorrow," he told Cinder. "If that's okay with you." The drake's tail swept once across the floor. Not a threat, an acknowledgement. Liam left the containment chamber feeling like he'd run a marathon. His clothes were soaked with sweat from the heat, and his legs shook with delayed adrenaline. But he was smiling. Pitch stared at him with all 6 of her compound eyes. "You survived. The betting pools are in chaos." Over the next 2 weeks, Liam visited every day. He brought things from his quarters: a music player that played Earth songs, a book of photographs showing mountains and deserts and forests. He learned to recognize Cinder's moods in the color of heat shimmer that surrounded the drake, in the patterns of rumbles and the position of those massive wings. Other students started coming to watch through the observation ports. Sage Brightwater, an aquatic being who communicated telepathically, became fascinated. She offered to help translate the emotional content of Cinder's responses, giving Liam a better sense of what the drake was feeling. "He's lonely," Sage said after one session, her water-filled sphere rippling with emotion, "so deeply lonely it hurts. But there's something else. Hope, maybe. Very faint, growing stronger each time you visit. On day 17, something changed." Liam entered the chamber to find Cinder pacing, agitated. The drake's scales were hot enough to distort the air around them, and his tail lashed against the containment bonds. "What's wrong?" Liam asked, concerned. Cinder's rumble was sharp, pained. The drake moved to the far wall, pressing against it, breathing hard. Liam watched carefully, trying to understand. Then he noticed the feeding system in the corner, dispensing the standard nutrient paste approved for captured fauna. He pulled up his datapad and checked Cinder's feeding schedule. Standard rations. Balanced nutrition. Completely wrong. You're not eating, Liam realized. He scrolled through his research notes frantically. Stellar drakes didn't eat dead meat or processed nutrients. They consumed thermal energy, drawing it from volcanic vents or stellar radiation. They needed living fire, not gray paste. Cinder's agitation intensified. He wasn't being aggressive. He was sick. Liam hit the emergency comm. "I need to speak to the council now, medical emergency." It took 6 hours of arguing, 3 specialist consultations, and Liam threatening to camp outside the containment vault until proper care was provided. Finally, the Academy retrofitted the chamber with thermal cores, miniature fusion reactors that would give Cinder the energy he needed. When the systems activated, Cinder approached them slowly, cautiously. Then he opened his jaws and drew in the heat like breathing. The transformation was immediate. His scales brightened. His eyes cleared. The pained rumbling shifted to something that sounded almost like relief. He turned to Liam, and for the first time he moved close without hesitation. The massive head lowered, and Cinder pressed his snout gently against Liam's chest. The gesture was unmistakable. "Thank you." Liam reached up slowly and placed his hand on the drake's scaled snout. The heat was intense but not burning. Under his palm he felt Cinder's heartbeat, strong and steady. "You're welcome," Liam whispered. Outside the vault, through the observation windows, a crowd of students had gathered. They watched in silence as human and dragon shared their first moment of true trust. And somewhere in the station's betting pools, the odds began to shift. Day 23 brought disaster wrapped in false evidence and malicious intent. Liam arrived at deep containment to find the vault sealed and security officers blocking the entrance. Pitch stood with her forearms crossed, her mandibles clicking in distress. "You're being summoned to an emergency council hearing," she said. "Do not attempt to access the containment area." Liam's stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Is Cinder okay?" "The drake is secure," Pitch said, but she wouldn't meet his eyes. "That's all I can tell you." The council chamber felt colder than before. This time Liam wasn't alone. His parents appeared via holographic link, confused and worried. Nora and Felix sat in the visitor section looking grim, and standing near the council's platform was Darius Flint, a reptilian student from the warrior caste, looking smug. Headmaster Oren's crystalline form pulsed with harsh light. "Liam Reed, serious allegations have been brought against you. Evidence suggests you have been using unauthorized technology to suppress Cinder's will and create an artificial bond." The words hit like a physical blow. "What? No, I would never." Oren gestured and a hologram appeared. Security footage showed the containment vault. There, partially hidden behind the thermal cores, was a small device pulsing with blue energy, a neural inhibitor, designed to suppress aggressive impulses and enforce docility. This was discovered during routine maintenance, Dr. Mora said, her liquid form rippling with disappointment. Neural inhibitors are strictly forbidden by interstellar law. They remove free will, creating slaves rather than companions. Liam stared at the device in shock. I didn't put that there. I've never even seen one of those before. The device was found in an area only you have regular access to, Granite Who Remembers rumbled. It was activated 17 days ago, coinciding with your first successful interaction with the Drake. 17 days ago. The day after Liam had fought for better feeding conditions. The day Cinder had first shown trust. Someone is setting me up, Liam said desperately. Please check the full security logs. Look at the timestamps. I can prove. We have reviewed the evidence, Oren said. It is damning. Furthermore, when security attempted to remove you from the area, Cinder became violent. He attacked the containment bonds and injured 2 staff members. This confirms that the Drake is dangerous and that any apparent bond was artificially induced. Liam's mind raced. Cinder had attacked? That didn't make sense unless the Drake thought they were separating them. Unless Cinder was trying to protect the bond they'd built. Let me talk to him, Liam pleaded. Let me prove the bond is real. Absolutely not, Dr. Mora said firmly. You will have no further contact with the Drake. The bond is hereby terminated. You will be expelled from Galactica Academy effective immediately. This is wrong, Liam shouted. Someone planted that device. Someone who doesn't want me to succeed. Darius Flint stepped forward, his scaled face showing mock concern. It's hard to accept failure, human. But perhaps this is for the best. Your species simply isn't ready for advanced companionship. Better you learned this lesson now. Something in Darius's tone made Liam look at him more carefully. The way he stood too confidently. The way his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. You did this, Liam said quietly. You planted the device, Darius laughed. Careful, human. Accusations without evidence will only make this worse. Before Liam could respond, Sage Brightwater rose from the visitor section. Her voice, telepathic and clear, reached everyone in the chamber. I request permission to testify. Oren's light flickered with surprise. Sage, what testimony could you offer? I am a level 3 telepath, Sage said. With permission, I can scan the recent memories of the containment area itself. The walls, the air, the energy signatures. Places remember if you know how to listen. Telepathic scanning of secured areas is prohibited, Granite Who Remembers said. It violates privacy protocols. Only if performed without consent, Sage countered. I am offering to submit myself for discipline after the scan is complete. But truth matters more than my academic standing. Liam felt a surge of gratitude. Sage was risking everything for him. The council conferred. Finally, Oren spoke. We will allow it. But understand, Sage Brightwater, that unauthorized use of psychic abilities carries severe consequences. Sage's sphere floated to the center of the chamber. She closed her eyes and the water around her began to glow with soft light. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Minutes passed. Then Sage gasped, and her sphere rippled violently. I see it. 5 days ago, late night cycle. Someone entered the maintenance access corridor adjacent to the vault. They knew the guard rotation. They moved with purpose. The hologram shifted, showing ghostly images pulled from Sage's telepathic reading. A figure in dark clothing, face obscured, moving through shadows, entering the vault through a secondary access point. Placing the neural inhibitor, activating it remotely. Show the face, Oren commanded. Sage concentrated harder and the image sharpened. The figure turned just for a moment and the light caught scaled features, familiar reptilian eyes. Darius Flint. The chamber erupted in chaos. Darius started to protest, then seemed to realize denial was useless. His expression shifted from smugness to rage. Yes, I did it, he snarled. And I'd do it again. Humans don't belong at this academy. You're weak, primitive, and you steal opportunities from species that have earned their place among the stars. Why? Liam asked, genuinely confused. What did I ever do to you? You exist, Darius spat. I spent 2 years trying to bond with a Class A predator. 2 years of training, preparation, discipline. I failed. My family was shamed. And then you, a human who's been here barely a year, decide to bond with a Class X Drake like it's nothing, like you deserve what I couldn't achieve. Granite Who Remembers' voice was like an earthquake. You endangered a student's life and the welfare of a protected creature because of jealousy? Not just jealousy, Sage said quietly, still reading the memories. He's part of something larger. An organization, the Crimson Talon. They believe humans are corrupting the Academy's purpose. More security footage appeared, pulled from Sage's scan. Darius meeting with other students, all wearing red armbands. Plans written in coded language. A campaign to discredit the human students and force them out of the Academy. Oren's voice was cold as stellar void. Darius Flint, you are hereby expelled from Galactica Academy. You will be returned to your homeworld, and your actions will be reported to the Interstellar Education Committee. Security, remove him. As guards escorted Darius out, he turned to Liam one last time. There are more of us than you think, human. This isn't over. After he was gone, the council turned back to Liam. Dr. Morris spoke, her voice gentle. We owe you an apology, Liam Reed. We allowed prejudice to cloud our judgment. The bond is reinstated, Oren said. However, we must extend your trial period another 30 days. The incident with Cinder attacking staff when separated from you raises concerns about dependency and aggression. He wasn't being aggressive, Liam said firmly. He was protecting our bond. That's different. Nevertheless, Oren continued, you must prove that this bond serves both of you, not just your emotional needs. The Academy War Games begin in 40 days. All students with companions must participate. If you and Cinder can demonstrate true partnership, successful cooperation in challenging circumstances, then the bond will be made permanent. Liam's heart sank. The War Games were legendary, a multi-day competition that tested every aspect of a student's abilities. Teams with well-trained, docile companions struggled to place in the top 50. How could he and Cinder, who had barely begun to understand each other, possibly compete? But looking at his parents' worried faces on the hologram, at Sage, who had risked everything for truth, at Nora and Felix, who believed in him, Liam knew he didn't have a choice. We'll do it, he said. We'll prove the bond is real. Then you have 40 days to prepare, Oren said. And Liam? We will be watching very carefully. The council dismissed him, and Liam ran to deep containment. Pitch let him through without hesitation. The vault door opened, and Cinder looked up from where he'd been lying, scales still rippling with agitation. Liam crossed the chamber in quick strides and wrapped his arms around Cinder's massive neck, not caring about the heat. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry they tried to take me away. Cinder's rumble was deep and complex, layers of emotion too intricate for words. Relief, anger, fierce protectiveness, and underneath it all, something that felt like determination. Liam pulled back and looked into those golden eyes. We have to compete in the War Games, show everyone that this bond is real. Are you willing to try? Cinder's answer came not in sound but in action. He stood, stretched his wings for the first time since Liam had met him, and the heat rolling off his body could have powered a small ship. The Drake was ready for war. Training for the War Games began before dawn on the Academy's exterior flight deck. Liam stood in the darkness watching stars wheel overhead through the atmospheric shield. Behind him, the massive airlock cycled open, and Cinder emerged into open space for the first time in 2 years. The Drake froze at the threshold. His wings trembled. Then slowly he stepped forward onto the deck and looked up at the infinite black scattered with distant suns. The rumble that came from his chest was pure longing. I know, Liam said softly. You should be flying out there, not trapped in a cage. Cinder lowered his head and Liam understood the invitation. He climbed onto the Drake's back, settling between the massive shoulder blades where the scales formed a natural saddle. The heat was intense but bearable, like sitting next to a bonfire. Ready? Liam asked. Cinder's answer was to launch skyward. The acceleration drove the air from Liam's lungs. One moment they were on the deck, the next they were climbing toward the stars at speeds that made his eyes water. The Academy fell away below them, a massive wheel of light spinning in the void. Cinder's wings caught stellar wind, adjusting with micro-movements that spoke of evolutionary perfection. They flew beyond the station's traffic lanes, into the clear space where nothing existed but vacuum and starlight. Cinder rolled, spiraled, dove, and climbed with a joy that was infectious. Liam held on, laughing despite the terror, feeling the raw power of the ancient creature beneath him. This was what Cinder had lost. This freedom, this belonging to the sky itself. After an hour of pure flight, they returned to the deck. Liam slid down, legs shaking, face numb from the cold of space despite his suit's heating. Cinder's scales were brighter somehow, as if the flight had recharged something essential in the Drake's spirit. "We'll do that again," Liam promised. "Every day. But first we need to learn to work together." Sage was waiting for them with Nora and Felix. She had convinced the council to let her help with training, using her telepathic abilities to bridge the communication gap between human and Drake. Her companion, a harmony eel named Ripple, floated in its portable sphere beside her. "The first challenge in the war games is always the labyrinth," Sage explained. "A shifting maze with your team's beacon hidden inside. You have to retrieve it before other teams destroy it." Felix adjusted his glasses, his boulder beetle companion, Rocky, sitting placidly at his feet. "Most teams use small, agile creatures that can navigate tight spaces. Cinder is—" He looked at the Drake, who was larger than most shuttlecraft, not small. "Which means we need a different strategy," Liam said. He turned to Cinder. "Can you melt through walls?" The Drake's rumble was amused. Heat rippled along his scales, and a small jet of flame scorched the deck plating. "I'll take that as a yes," Liam grinned. They spent the next week practicing coordination. Sage would relay Cinder's intentions to Liam, helping them develop a shared language of gestures and thermal patterns. Nora, with her Prism Hawk companion scout, ran reconnaissance exercises. Felix and Rocky tested defensive formations, but it was the second challenge that worried Liam most. Resource wars required teams to capture and hold strategic points against active opposition. Other students would be competing directly against them, and many still saw Cinder as a monster that needed to be put down. "They're going to target us," Nora said during a strategy session. "Every team will see Cinder as the biggest threat." "Let them," Liam said. "We're not trying to win. We just need to prove the bond works, that we can cooperate under pressure without Cinder losing control." Training intensified. Liam learned to read Cinder's moods in the flicker of heat, in the angle of his wings, in the depth of his rumbles. The Drake learned human hand signals, learned to moderate his strength, learned that Liam's fragile body couldn't withstand the same punishment as Drake's scales. Trust built between them, layer by layer. Cinder would let Liam approach his wings, the most vulnerable part of a Drake's body. Liam would fall asleep against Cinder's side, trusting the Drake not to accidentally incinerate him. They weren't just bonding. They were becoming partners. The day before the war games, Liam visited Cinder in containment one last time. The restraints had been removed days ago. The Drake could leave anytime he wanted, but he stayed waiting. "Tomorrow everyone's going to be watching," Liam said, looking for any excuse to say we failed. "That the bond is fake or dangerous." Cinder's rumble was low and complex. Through Sage's translation earlier, Liam had learned that the Drake understood more than anyone realized. Understood politics and prejudice and the weight of representing something larger than himself. "I need you to know," Liam continued, "that no matter what happens tomorrow, this bond is real. You're not my pet or my weapon. You're my friend. And if things go wrong, if they try to separate us, I want you to know it's not your fault." The Drake moved closer, his massive head lowering until he could look directly into Liam's eyes. The rumble that came next needed no translation. It vibrated through Liam's bones, through his heart, carrying a message that transcended species. "I know, and you are mine as much as I am yours." The war games began with ceremony. 10,000 students filled the arena, a massive sphere that could reconfigure itself into any terrain imaginable. Companions of every description waited with their partners. Glowing sprites, armored beasts, crystalline flyers, and creatures that defied easy categorization. And one dragon. Cinder drew every eye as he entered with Liam on his back. The whispers started immediately. Betting pools updated frantically. Some students moved away instinctively. Others leaned forward, fascinated. The arena master, a being of pure sound named Cord, announced the first challenge. "Teams will enter the labyrinth in waves. Your beacon awaits. Time limit 1 hour. Failure means elimination." The maze materialized, walls rising from the arena floor in impossible configurations. 20 teams entered simultaneously. Liam's team was in the third wave. When their turn came, they plunged into the shifting corridors. The walls were solid energy, resistant to most forms of damage. Most teams would spend hours navigating the maze's tricks and traps. Liam leaned forward on Cinder's neck. "Show them what you can do." Cinder opened his jaws and breathed. The flame wasn't like fire. It was concentrated thermal energy, heat so intense it existed somewhere between matter and pure force. The maze wall didn't burn. It simply ceased to exist, molecules breaking down into their component atoms. They flew straight through the labyrinth, cinder melting walls like they were made of ice. Nora and Scout flew ahead, marking the fastest path. Felix and Rocky followed, the beetle's armored shell protecting them from falling debris. Sage and Ripple coordinated everyone telepathically. They reached the beacon in 12 minutes. A new course record, the crowd went silent, then erupted in chaos. The second challenge, Resource Wars, was more complex. Teams had to capture and hold 3 strategic points scattered across a simulated battlefield. Other teams could attack, steal points, form alliances, or betray them. As predicted, multiple teams immediately targeted Liam's group. They saw Cinder as the threat to eliminate first. 3 teams rushed their positions simultaneously, a coordinated assault with creatures bred for combat. Liam felt Cinder's fury building, felt the heat rising as the Drake prepared to defend himself. "No," Liam said firmly, hand on Cinder's neck. "We don't fight them. We're smarter than that." He guided Cinder into the air, using the Drake's superior mobility to stay ahead of ground-based attackers. Nora and Scout harassed enemy teams from above. Felix and Rocky held defensive positions. They didn't win through force. They won through strategy, patience, and perfect coordination. When the challenge ended, they had placed second. More importantly, Cinder had remained controlled throughout, responding to Liam's guidance even in the heat of simulated combat. But the third challenge would test them like nothing before. The gauntlet was meant to be brutal, a final trial that pushed students to their absolute limits. Obstacle courses combined with live combat scenarios, environmental hazards, and psychological stress tests. As the teams assembled for the final challenge, Liam noticed something wrong. The course looked different than the training simulations. Sections of the arena flickered with unstable energy. Safety barriers seemed misaligned. Felix saw it too. Something's not right. The gravity wells are fluctuating. Before anyone could react, the challenge began. Teams launched into the gauntlet and immediately things went wrong. A gravity well collapsed, sending 3 students and their companions tumbling. Energy barriers failed, exposing participants to hazardous zones. What should have been difficult became deadly. "It's sabotage," Nora shouted over the chaos. "The Crimson Talon, they're still trying to hurt us." Cinder could escape easily, could fly above the disaster and wait for it to resolve. But Liam looked at the students struggling below, at the companions in danger, and made a choice. "We help them," he said. Cinder's rumble asked the question. "Are you certain?" "I'm certain," Liam said. "Show them what drakes really are." The drake dove into the chaos. Cinder moved through the collapsing arena like a force of nature. His wings caught students falling through failed gravity zones. His claws gripped structural supports to hold them steady. His body shielded others from energy discharges that should have been contained. Liam directed him with voice and gesture and that deeper connection they'd built. The understanding that went beyond words. A section of the arena floor gave way, dropping a Vrillian student and her crystal crawler toward the exposed power core below. Cinder dove faster than physics should have allowed, caught them both in his jaws with a gentleness that contradicted every story about Drake's savagery, and carried them to safety. Another student was trapped behind an energy barrier that was overloading, about to explode. Cinder breathed carefully controlled flame, not to destroy but to redirect energy flow, creating a safe corridor for escape. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the Drake everyone had feared became their salvation. Emergency teams scrambled to shut down the arena, but it was taking too long. The structural failures were cascading, spreading. Felix's voice crackled over the communication channel. "The main gravity generator is destabilizing. If it goes critical, the entire arena collapses." Liam looked at the massive generator far below, buried in the arena's foundation. Already it was sparking with dangerous energy, reality bending around it in visible waves. "Can you reach it?" Liam asked Cinder. The Drake's rumble was uncertain. The heat required to safely discharge a failing gravity generator was immense, even for a stellar Drake. It would push Cinder to his limits, maybe beyond them. "I'm not ordering you," Liam said firmly. "I'm asking." "As your friend." Cinder's answer came in the form of action. He flew toward the generator, building heat with every wing beat. His scales began to glow, first red, then orange, then white-hot. The air around him shimmered and burned. At the last moment, Liam slid from Cinder's back onto a maintenance platform. The Drake needed to be able to move freely without worrying about burning his human companion. "I trust you," Liam called as Cinder descended into the heart of the failing machine. What happened next would be talked about in academy halls for generations. Cinder opened his jaws and breathed pure stellar fire, channeling the generator's explosive energy through his own body and dispersing it safely into the arena's heat sinks. The Drake became a living converter, taking enough power to vaporize a small city and transforming it into harmless thermal radiation. The process took 3 minutes. Each second felt like an eternity. Cinder's scales cracked from the strain. His wings shuddered. But he held firm and slowly, carefully, the generator's wild fluctuations stabilized. When it was over, Cinder collapsed on the arena floor. His scales were dark, heat exhausted from his system. Liam ran to him, ignoring the burns he got from touching still hot scales. "Stay with me," Liam said, his voice breaking. "You don't get to save everyone and then leave, understand?" "Stay with me." Cinder's eyes opened, dimmer than usual but aware. His rumble was weak but clear. "Still here." Medical teams swarmed the arena. Students who had been saved by Cinder gathered around, keeping a respectful distance but wanting to see to understand. The Drake who they had feared had just given everything to protect them. As emergency crews checked Cinder's condition, a new presence entered the arena. A ship, sleek and dark, materialized in the space above the academy. It was built from materials that looked organic, grown rather than constructed, and it radiated heat like a captured star. The communication channels crackled with a voice that rumbled with ancient authority. "This is Ember Smokewing, matriarch of the Ashfire flights. I have come for what was taken from us." The arena fell silent. Every eye turned to the ship, then to Cinder. Headmaster Orin appeared in holographic form, his crystalline structure pulsing rapidly. "Matriarch Ember, the Academy operates under interstellar law. The Drake in our care was confiscated from illegal traders." "Illegal by whose law?" Ember's voice was fire-given sound. "Cinder is my grandson. He left our system of his own will, seeking to understand the galaxy that our ancestors abandoned. The traders found him exploring and tried to claim him. Your authorities took him without inquiry, assumed we were victims to be rescued rather than choosing our own path." Liam felt his heart sink. Cinder had family, a home, people who loved him and wanted him back. Of course he did. How selfish had Liam been, thinking this bond was forever. Ember's ship descended and the matriarch herself emerged. She was magnificent and terrifying. Easily twice Cinder's size, scales like polished midnight, eyes that burned with intelligence accumulated over centuries. She approached Cinder and the young Drake struggled to his feet despite his exhaustion. The reunion was wordless but profound. Cinder's rumbles mixed with Ember's, a conversation in thermal patterns and subsonic frequencies that needed no translation. This was family recognizing family, love that transcended species barriers. Then Ember turned those burning eyes to Liam. "You are the human who bonded with my grandson," she said, and her voice could have melted steel. Liam stood straight despite his fear. "I am, but it was his choice. I never forced him." "I know," Ember said, and some of the fire left her voice. "I feel the bond between you. It resonates with something old, something we Drakes thought lost forever." She moved closer, studying Liam with an intensity that made him feel transparent. "The firstborn, our ancient companions, they took our bonds as chains. They commanded where we would fly, what we would do, who we would be. When we rebelled, it ended in war and sorrow. We swore never to bond again." "I don't want to command him," Liam said quietly. "I never did. Cinder is his own person. He should be free to choose his path, even if that path doesn't include me." The matriarch was silent for a long moment. Around them, the entire academy watched and waited. This moment would define the future of human-Drake relations, possibly change galactic politics forever. "Cinder," Ember said finally, in tones meant for her grandson alone, but loud enough for all to hear. "What do you choose? Return to the Ashfire system, to your flight and your family? Or remain here, bonded to this human walking a path between worlds?" Cinder raised his head. His scales were still dark from exhaustion, but his eyes burned bright. He looked at Ember and his rumble carried love and respect. He looked at the ship, at the freedom of home and sky and familiar faces. Then he looked at Liam. The drake moved slowly, painfully, until he stood beside the human. He lowered his head and pressed his snout to Liam's chest right over his heart. The message was clear: I choose both. Ember's eyes widened. You wish to bridge the divide? To walk between the Ashfire system and the wider galaxy? Cinder's affirmative rumble shook the arena floor. The matriarch looked at Liam again. This is not a small thing he offers. To be a bridge is to belong fully to neither side. To always be between. Can you accept that? Can you share him with the sky and the fire and the family that calls him home? Liam thought about possession and partnership. About love that holds tight and love that lets go. About the difference between owning and belonging. Yes, he said. If that's what he wants, then that's what we'll do. He was never mine to keep. He's his own, and if he chooses to spend time with his family, to maintain his culture and heritage, that makes the bond stronger, not weaker. Ember Smokewing did something that no one in the academy had ever seen. She lowered her massive head to Liam, a gesture of profound respect. The firstborn never understood this. They saw us as possessions. But you, human child, you see my grandson as he is. That is the beginning of true partnership. She straightened and addressed the assembled academy. The Ashfire system will end its isolation. We will send ambassadors, establish relations, share knowledge. But this will be conditional on our youth being free to choose their paths, including bonds with other species who understand what partnership truly means. Headmaster Oren's crystalline form pulsed with emotions too complex to read. The council accepts these terms. We apologize for the assumptions we made about your people and your intentions. 3 more young drakes emerged from Ember's ship, their scales shimmering with colors Liam had never seen. They looked at the academy with wonder and trepidation. These are volunteers, Ember said. Young ones who wish to learn, to explore, to perhaps find bonds of their own. I entrust them to your care, and I entrust my grandson to this human who has proven himself worthy. The formal proceedings continued for hours. Treaties were discussed. Protocols established. But Liam barely heard any of it. He sat with Cinder as medical teams tended to the drake's injuries, feeding him thermal energy from portable generators. You're really going to split your time? Liam asked quietly. Between here and home? Cinder's rumble was amused and warm. Through Sage's gentle translation, the meaning became clear. You will come with me sometimes. Learn to fly in real space, meet my family, see the volcanic plains where drakes are born, and I will return with you. Continue learning. Prove that ancient wounds can heal. I'd like that, Liam said, smiling through tears he didn't bother to hide. I'd like that a lot. A year passed. The academy changed in ways both subtle and profound. 3 young drakes bonded with students from different species, each partnership unique and beautiful. The Crimson Talon faction was exposed and disbanded, their members expelled or reformed. Relations with the Ashfire system flourished, opening new avenues of science and culture. Liam graduated with honors, the first human to complete advanced xenobiology studies. His thesis on interspecies bonding became required reading across the galaxy. Job offers came from a dozen worlds, but he accepted only one. Official liaison between humanity and the stellar drakes. On the day he prepared to leave for his first diplomatic mission, a new human student arrived at the academy. She was young, nervous, clutching her datapad like a lifeline. She looked at the massive station with equal parts wonder and fear. Cinder noticed her first. He rumbled softly, and Liam followed his gaze. Remember being that scared? Liam asked. The drake's rumble was affirmative and sympathetic. They approached together, human and dragon, the bond between them visible in every synchronized movement. The new student's eyes widened. Hi, Liam said, offering his hand. I'm Liam Reed, this is Cinder. You look lost. Can we help? The girl stared at Cinder, clearly terrified but trying not to show it. Is he your pet? Liam laughed. No, he's my partner, my friend, my family, and he's his own person just like you and me. Cinder lowered his head to the girl's level, careful not to frighten her. His rumble was gentle, welcoming. The thing about the academy, Liam said, watching understanding dawn in the new student's eyes, is that it teaches you the most important lesson. The bonds that matter, the ones that change the galaxy, they're not built on control or possession. They're built on respect, trust, and the courage to see beyond what everyone else thinks is possible. The girl reached out hesitantly and touched Cinder's snout. The drake's scales were warm but not burning, alive with contained fire. Are all the companions here like him? She asked. Every companion is unique, Liam said. Every bond is different. That's what makes it special. You'll find yours in time, and when you do, it won't be about taming or commanding. It'll be about partnership, about choosing each other, every single day. Behind them, 3 young drakes soared through the Academy's flight deck, practicing formations with their bonded partners. Above them, Ember Smokewing's ship hung in orbit, a reminder of bridges built and wounds healed. Cinder rumbled and smoke curled from his nostrils in what Liam had learned was dragon laughter. Come on, Liam said to the new student. Let me show you around, and maybe introduce you to the other students. Fair warning, though, the food still tastes like plastic no matter what color it is. As they walked toward the Academy entrance, Cinder's wing moved to shelter them both from the artificial sun's glare. Not possessive, not commanding, just present, just choosing as he did every day to walk this path together. And in that choice, repeated daily across 1,000 different bonds between 1,000 different species, the galaxy found something it had lost long ago. Not just peace but understanding. Not just tolerance but genuine friendship. One bond at a time, impossible partnerships became possible. And it all started with a human student and a dragon, choosing each other when the whole galaxy said they shouldn't. The story of Pet Day at Galactica Academy became legend. But the real story, the one that mattered, was simpler and more profound. It was about seeing someone for who they truly are, not who they're supposed to be, about trust earned through action, not demanded through power, about the courage to bridge impossible divides, and about how sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is simply choosing to be kind.